here with Marcie Pantzer, and I've known Marcie since she was 18 years old. 18? Were you 18 when we started college?
Yeah.
Okay,
Feels like
18.
forever ago.
It feels like a really long time ago. And this is fun. So I've done lots of different interviews with different women. Obviously, the majority of my interviews are with like medical doctors and women in the profession of scientists and researchers and whatnot. But I really am focused on female connections. And there's a tremendous amount of studies that show that women who have, especially as we get older, and by older, I just mean like over 40, that women who have significant female connections with other women live longer and healthier and happier lives. And I think actually, in particularly post-COVID, we're more focused on that. And there's a lot of different ways in which we're helping each other do that. And I've spent a lot of time and energy focused on that and the importance of that. And whether you know it or not, Marcie, you're doing that. And that's what I really want to talk about today. And also, your whole life has been really focused on that, your relationship with your sister and your relationship with your mom and your female relationships, from my perspective, have always been really important to you. And to me, you're one of those people that's spent a lot of time and energy on your relationships with other women. And I find that inspiring and important. So Marcie Neiman Pantzer, thank you for being here. Before we get into Dear Annabelle and the company that you've built, tell me about your relationships with your mom and your sister and sort of how they've grown and changed over the years with kind of where you've lived physically and moved, and then your relationships and just as you've gotten older.
Sure. So I think connection is super important, especially with the women in your lives. Like you said, I am extremely close to my sister. She is my best friend. As kids, we used to fight a lot. And my dad would say, your sister's your best friend. And he just sort of ingrained it in us that that's the one person that you can always sort of count on your whole life. And they've been there your whole life. And I'm extremely close to my mom as well. But I would say my sister is really my best friend. And over the years, we haven't lived in the same city in almost 15 years. But we talk nearly every day, and she's really the person I go to. She's almost like my life coach. But I do feel like my girlfriends are very important to me too. I have all my girlfriends from high school, from college, the women I've picked up along the way that I love. And I really tried to take time to see those girls and keep our relationships really strong. I think that you have to make it a priority. If it's not a priority, then you sort of lose touch with people. And everyone's so busy. We're all busy, right? But we all make time for the things that we want to make time for. And so I try to prioritize those things. And I'm trying to teach that to my daughter as well. So Annabelle is a freshman in college, and I'm trying to explain to her how important, your female friends are and how you really need to hold on tight to the good ones.
Yeah, definitely. And how has your relationship with Annabelle changed since she went to college?
Oh, well, obviously I don't see her as much. We talk more on the phone, obviously, and we text. She sort of ignores me a lot. I feel like I'm begging her for attention. I'm like, answer me, please. What do they say? Absence makes the heart grow fonder. So, I really appreciate the moments that we do get to spend together. She's actually coming home tomorrow. We celebrate Passover. So I'm like really excited for her to come home. Whereas, when your kid's living in your house, you don't really always appreciate those moments as much.
Yeah.
So it's been really nice. And she's actually at the school where we went. And so it's really fun to see it through her eyes and to hear about what's happening down on campus and hear about all the events and sorority parties and this, that, and the other. So it's been really fabulous.
Does she FaceTime you a lot?
Yeah, almost entirely. It's either a text or a FaceTime. And I always try to take the call. I feel like before I might not have always taken the call, but now since I hardly ever can reach her or she never has time for me, I'm like, okay, please, yay, she wants to talk.
Literally, unless I'm in the shower or like on the toilet, I always answer a FaceTime when my kids FaceTime me from college.
Totally. Yeah.
If I had a girl, I'd probably still answer the FaceTime if I was maybe on the toilet, just like hold it up, but not in the shower. But literally, always. And I find that my kids, this is really different because obviously when we were in college, like we didn't have cell phones, right? So like to call home and talk to your mom was a big deal. Like it was, you had to like be in your dorm room and they had to be sitting by the phone on the other end. Like it wasn't as easy. Now I feel like my kids, they don't like to be alone. So if they're ever like eating alone, that's when they FaceTime me, or literally like walking to class. So I get it a lot. And I think they know their mom will always pick up. Like they don't FaceTime my husband as much, but they know I'll pick up the phone. So they FaceTime me. And of course, I always try to. So I feel like there's a really good connection, but I don't know if that's a son thing. Like they're like babies still. Is
They
that
love their
different?
moms. That's true.
Does Annabelle do that with you?
Annabelle reaches out a lot, even much more so than when she was here in high school because she was in class all day. In college, a lot more free time. It's more chunky. So, I do hear from her a lot more. But sometimes when I ask her for things, I don't always get the response right away that I'm hoping for. And I
Yeah,
try to get on the other end.
definitely. What about with your sister? Because I know you guys have always been so close. What's your age difference? 2 years?
So we're actually nearly 3 years apart, but we're 2 grades apart.
Okay.
And when we were younger, we would like fight over clothes and fight over boys and like everything. Because, it was like we had a lot of overlapping friends, like our friends groups overlapped a lot. But as we've grown up, we've just kind of always been there for one another and we kind of complement each other. She's like extremely supportive of my business and I try to be extremely supportive of hers. Yesterday, we launched a new product and she was like the first person to put it on her Instagram. And that's so sweet. It's so nice to have like a cheerleader and someone that you can go to. And if you don't have a sister, hopefully you have a best friend or a mom or someone that can kind of fill that void for you.
And how are you guys in terms of supporting each other raising your kids? I found with my sister, we're 11 months apart, which is insanely close. My mom was 6 weeks postpartum when she got pregnant with me. I was obviously a huge surprise. She wasn't losing the weight and went to the doctor and was like, "What's happening? Like my boobs are still huge." And he was like, "Let's just give you a pregnancy test." And she's like, "There's no way. Like I had sex once. There's no chance." And he was like, "Well, you're pregnant." And she was like so furious and so pissed and couldn't believe it. It was really, she told the story for a long time and was like so mad at my dad. It was really funny. So my sister and I are like Irish twins, they called us, and we're so close. And I think one of the big things that we really figured out our differences as people was when we had kids. We found out we're really different parents and the way we parent. And it was an interesting way to learn more about ourselves and to learn more about each other. Did you and Lori figure out that with each other, or were you really similar in that vein?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't really thought about that before, but I think we sort of have different parenting styles. My sister's strict about things that I'm not, and I'm strict about other things that she isn't, if that makes sense. Like she's really into her kids eating super healthy and not having like a soda, whereas like I'm like, oh, order a soda, whatever. I think she thinks that I'm too lax. Like I don't punish my kids enough, or they're getting away with too much, which is sort of funny because I think I'm sort of an authoritarian parent style. I think my kids are sort of scared of me, but then apparently I never follow through on my punishments. Yeah, it's interesting. But I think some of that also is the person that you're co-parenting with, your spouse. You know what I mean? Because it is a bit of a team. So maybe that's just has to do a little bit also with our husbands having different parenting styles or different experiences. She has a husband who was an only child. Jordan had a brother. So Jordan's used to like boy interactions, or maybe is more forgiving when our boys fight or whatever, because he's sort of used to that from growing up.
And what's it like having one daughter and 3 boys? Especially your daughter being your oldest.
Yeah, I think having a daughter first is so lucky. Annabelle sort of takes care of our whole family. Like she takes care of me and my husband, Jordan. She certainly takes care of the boys. I think she's sort of our balancer. With her away at college, it's been a huge adjustment. We sort of lost our best part of our unit, if that makes sense. I don't know,
Totally.
team is fun. It's like we've lost a lot of the energy. We have a lot more testosterone running around here. It's just not as balanced. She's a bit of a peacemaker, which was great to have. We miss it. So when she comes home, it's so nice. It's like everything goes back to the way it's always been. We do miss her. It's crazy. But it was really great, I think, to have a daughter first. And I feel really lucky to have a daughter. I do feel sad that she never got a sister. I remember when we told her that I have 3 boys, when I was pregnant with Luke, who's our youngest, and we had to break the news to her that it was another boy, she started crying hysterically. She's like, I don't want another brother. And I felt sadly, I wanted her to have a sister experience because it is so special. But she's extremely close with her cousins. So those kind of fill that role for her.
That's sweet. That's really sweet. And my guess is she has really close girlfriends.
Oh yeah, so many. Yeah, she has. That's really.
And has
important.
she made close girlfriends in college?
Yeah, it seems like it. I don't know them so well yet.
Yeah.
But it seems like she's made a nice group, and she did join a sorority, which is like a sisterhood, and really nice for her to meet older girls and girls from other places, not just, in the New York area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then tell me why you started Dear Annabelle.
So I've always kind of been a stationery collector. Like as a kid, I loved paper products. I loved Hello Kitty stationery and the pens and the stickers. I was really into like my bat mitzvah invitation. Like I thought about it a lot. I was so excited to pick it. So like I've always loved stationery, and I loved picking my camp stationery. Like that was a big deal for me, what I was going to bring to sleepaway camp.
Did you like actually writing letters too, or was it more just about the like stationery?
It's a bit of both. I actually love the paper products. I love the design. I love the feel of them. I love stickers. I love stamps. I love pens. I love everything that goes with it. And I would be the kind of person who would go to like Kate's Papery if I had spare time. That was a store here in New York. And they would have these enormous invitation books. And I would sit there just like for hours, just like looking through them. I don't know. I mean, not even with an event in mind. I just loved looking through them and seeing the different designs. I'm not a graphic artist, but I really appreciate design. And so I loved stores like that and spending time there. And then I started collecting stationery as I was working and had a little more disposable income. And I would kind of seek out all different designers to make me special stationery. Like I went to Bernard Maisner, who was doing amazing calligraphy. And I was like, can we make stationery? And I don't think he'd even really made personalized note cards before like that. So that was so fun for me. And I just always thought it would be great to have my own business and have my own stationery collection, which is so exciting.
So walk backwards and tell me about what you did after college in terms
sure.
of your career, leading up to this.
Okay, so I had a bit of a path. I graduated Duke as an economics public policy major, and I thought maybe I would go to law school because I actually didn't know what I really wanted to do. And I think I studied for the LSAT and then decided that was not my path. And my first job out of college was at Ralph Lauren. And I got a job in something called investor relations, which is kind of the group that interacts with Wall Street, because it had just gone public, the company. And that was a really interesting opportunity because I got to see a lot about fashion and interact with those people, but from like a financial side, which played on my economics, degree. But I quickly realized that I actually am good at numbers and don't really like them. Like I can do it, but it's not that fun for me. So, I met this woman in a cooking class, and she was a magazine editor, a jewelry and accessories editor. And I didn't even really know what that was. Like, I didn't even know that was kind of a job. And I mentioned to her in this cooking class, I was looking for a next step. And she's like,
why were you taking a cooking class?
Oh, Jordan and I signed up for some weekend cooking class for fun. Just for fun. I met her and her husband. It was like a breakfast baking class. Her name was Melissa Milrad. And I still interact with her like on Instagram and everything. And she said, I work at Town and Country and there's a job opening. You should come, interview. And I was like, oh, wow, that's awesome. So I did. And I met the most fabulous people working there. I ended up only working there for 5 years, but it was such a great experience.
That's a long time, by the way. Like in our generation, it doesn't seem like a long time, but in this generation, like in the younger generation, that's like a lifetime working somewhere.
That's true. I guess it was, especially when you're starting at 22. I covered at first jewelry and accessories. So there's different markets, right? So you cover those markets and then you pick the things that would ultimately end up in the magazine, not on the advertising pages, but on the fashion spreads or fashion shoot. And then for a brief while, I also covered the ready-to-wear markets. And I loved it so much. It was a great job. I think working at a magazine in the early 2000s was like the coolest thing ever. You met all the fabulous magazine girls, all the PR girls. It was like, it was just such an enormous network, especially a big network of women, mostly these were women. I mean, I feel like I met so many people that I still see all the time or run into. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so fun. Like I've known you for, what is it, like 25 years?
20-something years, yeah.
Yeah. While I was there, we used to have this bridal issue. And sometimes for that issue, I would sort of take it as paper was like an accessory. And so I'd cover some of the stationery people because, we wanted to include different invitation makers and things like that, printers for that. And I remember going out to the printery and meeting with Bill. And because I was like, oh, maybe I could like buy that business. But it was his grandma's business. And he was like never going to sell that. I didn't realize it was like a family business. And there was a time that John L. Strong came on the market, but it was like very high price. It wasn't like in my, couldn't afford to like buy that company because that was like an established stationery brand. So I kind of just put that to rest for a while, and I had kids, like 4 kids, and I took like this enormous hiatus.
But you were thinking about, I want to buy a stationery brand.
When I left Town and Country, I told those women, I want to start a stationery company. Literally, that's what I told them. But then it took me like forever to actually do it. I could do the math, but I can't think that quickly, 10 years, 8 years, whatever it was. I was out of the workforce for a very long time, longer than I was ever in the workforce, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So finally, my kids were older. They were like all in school. And I was like, okay, this is it. If I don't do it now, like I'm never going to do it. And I actually worked with this fabulous life coach. I know some people are like down on life coaches, but I felt like I needed a little like push. And I had some like fear of failure that I think a lot of women have. And I couldn't exactly figure out like how to do it or like how to get started, you know? And so working with her sort of helped me think about my big plan, a big goal, like let's start this stationery business. And she kind of gave me almost like little assignments, like go find 5 stationery brands you're interested in, go do this, speak to 3 people that might be able to help you along the way. And it kind of, forced me to start, get the ball rolling. Because, you can talk about doing something forever, right? And then just kind of never do it. So that's what I needed. I'm not sure that everyone else does, but for me, that really helped me get over sort of my fear. And there's that whole, I was like, oh, well, the world doesn't need another stationery brand. How is mine different? How is it going to be? I don't want to copy people. And she's like, Marcie, there's like 1,000 different brands of rosé. They're all just rosé. They're just a little bit different. They have a little bit different flavor, different packaging. It doesn't matter. Just because there's other companies, it doesn't mean there's not room for yours.
Yeah.
And, I really needed kind of someone to say that to me. That wasn't like my husband or my best friend, even though I did talk to Jenny at the very beginning. We have a mutual best friend.
Yeah.
So working with her was really helpful to me to kind of get going.
They say it's 98% perspiration, like 2% inspiration. Everyone can have ideas. It's the people that do it. Like it's really easy to talk about things. It's really hard to do it. It's hard to start and then it's hard to follow through.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like at the beginning, I was really hung up on the name of this company, because I think a name of a company is so important. And I went through like a naming exercise with this branding group, and I like any of the names. And then I kind of realized that was almost just a delay tactic. It was like I wasn't sure if I was ready. So like analyzing and overanalyzing the name was, I think, subconsciously just a way of like not going to the next step.
yeah.
Right? There's never a perfect name.
Yeah.
It's never going to be cool enough or whatever. Yeah. So it was really interesting. Like I needed that extra push. It was a big leap to get back into the workforce. Like when I left, there was no Dropbox, there was no Google anything. I mean, I was still like working in Word documents and Excel. I didn't like know how to do anything. I still don't.
think when I worked the first job after college, people asked, and I worked in PR for like a year, and right when I moved to New York at 23, and people are like, well, what did you learn? And I said, the biggest thing I learned was like how to use like Excel and Word and email, like how to organize an outbox, and how to make folders, which sounds insane. But when I graduated college, which was just a year ahead of you, like we didn't know how to do that. And so that was a big deal to like learn that. And that was a foundation for how to do work and how to work on your own. Like that's a huge step. And so I think that's that's not to be like poo-pooed. That's a big deal.
Right.
And so how to learn how to just do the work and to get up every day and figure out how to run your own business, all the minutia of it in itself is a big deal.
Yeah. And I feel like I also really had to learn how to ask people for advice. I was really bad about doing that. And that is another thing I learned. Like people generally want to be helpful. You just have to ask them.
Yes. People
And I
really,
was
yes.
shy. Yeah.
My husband and I have that conversation with our kids a lot. We have it with especially our older kids. And particularly my oldest son, who's graduating from college this year in 3 weeks. And that people, especially people who are successful, they want to help you. Like people, it makes them feel good. It makes them feel really good. First of all, to be asked, and then to take even a mini mentor role or a big mentor role. But people like to give you advice, sometimes quite unsolicited, and sometimes it's not good advice. But especially if it's solicited, it makes them feel really good. And also, I think the best part of being at this age of our life in our 40s, well, upper 40s, is is knowing what we're good at, right? And knowing like where you thrive and where you can do really well, and then knowing what you're not good at, and then being comfortable with asking for that advice now. Like before, I think when we're younger, at least for me, it made me feel like I wasn't smart or I was a failure. And if I asked someone for advice, like, shouldn't I know that? Like, I be able to figure that out? But now I'm like, no, like I know what I'm good at, and that's not my area of expertise. So I'm actually quite empowered if I ask someone else to help with that or ask someone for advice.
Yeah. No, I totally agree.
But
So,
that was a big leap. That's a big leap.
yeah, it is. I feel like, circling back to where we started about connection, like, I feel like that is sort of the underlying thing of my whole business. It's about helping people connect with one another. It's really important to me. And like you said, like in this digital world, like sometimes you need to connect on a more real, tangible level. And, that is sort of the beauty of Dear Annabelle is sort of like send someone an actual letter, take the time to like write it down and actually find their address and get a stamp and put it in the
Mhm.
mail. It
Mhm.
like means so much. And then when
Yeah.
someone gets it in their mailbox and they see your hand, I mean, it's pretty sad. Like I can still remember like my grandpa's handwriting, but I don't know that my kids really know like their grandparents' handwriting. You know what I mean? Because in this day and age, like handwriting, you don't see it so
Mhm.
much, right?
Mhm.
Handwriting is so signature to people and like their style and like what pen they use and everything. I think that's sort of sad. But when people get mail and it's like you can just see from the envelope, you know exactly who it's from. Like my friend Jill Cargman has the most distinct handwriting. When I get something from her, I'm like, oh, it's from Jill. It's like, it's so fun to get something like that in your mailbox.
I
It's so nice
agree.
to have that kind of connection.
My friend Carrie just sent me a thank you letter for a birthday gift I gave her. And at first I was like, really, Carrie, you had to send me a thank you letter in the mail. But I was like, oh, of course, Carrie sent me a thank you letter. And her handwriting is so distinct. I've known it since we were 11 years old. And I love it. I loved getting it. It was just so obviously Carrie, and it made me feel so good. And of course, I kept it. It's in my drawer next to my bed. And it was like, you know, so clearly her. And it was her children would always write me thank you notes. And it was like clearly a taught thing that she will always do for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I think that like writing notes shouldn't be a chore, right? Like I'm like always like making my kids write thank you notes. I'm like, I'm in the business. You got to write a thank you note, right? Like if we don't do it, that's not good. But I do think that Carrie probably got a lot of joy by writing you that note. And she probably felt like she was really expressing her gratitude that way. And maybe it wouldn't have been, you know, she might not have been able to convey that over a text in the way that she wanted to. And she probably enjoyed it. For some people, like writing notes is almost like cathartic. It's really nice. It can be relaxing and fun. For other people, like it's a huge giant chore. And I get that. Like, some people are never going to write things and other people love to write. And I do think though that for the people who enjoy it, and I think most people, I never think someone's going to be sad when they get a thank you note. They might feel a little guilty that they haven't written someone else a thank you note, right? But I think that it usually sparks joy to get some kind of note in the mail. And especially when people are going through tough times, I feel like that is when notes really matter.
Mhm.
When you have a friend whose parent has died or is going through like a health thing, it's those times when the notes are definitely appreciated.
I agree. How do you come up with your sayings on your notepads and in your on your cards? Because they're really cute. They're really
Oh,
whimsical. They're funny. I mean, I've always known you have a very cutting, good sense of humor. Like your sense of humor it's like I want to say it's dry, but it's sort of sometimes dry, but it's also really, I mean, it's really funny, Marcy. Like you've got a really good sense of humor, but it's
well, that's
also
really not something we
quite
debate on this podcast, but
no,
um,
it is. But you're very quick and you're really smart, and people with good sense of humor are usually are smart. Like you can think quickly. But it's also quite whimsical and like flirty in many ways. And so how long does it take you? Like are you always thinking of things? Are you writing them down? Are you, producing ahead of time? Are you producing as you go? Like how does it work?
sure. Yeah. I don't think of myself as that funny. I appreciate humor a lot. It's very important in the people I surround myself with. Like my
Mhm.
husband is the funniest person I know. And I love living with someone so funny and being married. Like that was really important to me on my list of things I was like would want in a mate or like in a partner rather, I guess, not a mate. And so I like really appreciate humor. But I didn't want the brand to come off as like too crass, right? So there's a fine line between
Mhm.
having cheeky humor and not. Like most stationery brands when I started, which was like, let's say at this point, it's been maybe it was 8 years. 8 years ago, I really started thinking about the business. But like most of the stationery and paper products out there were fairly traditional. Like, there would be a sailboat or like you know what I mean? A palm
Mhm.
tree or whatever, where it would just say like, thank you. And it was like from Cranes or, some other fabulous stationery brand. But and I felt like stationery, there was a moment where it could be a little bit cheekier, a little bit more fun, but it didn't need to be like too crass.
Mhm.
It needs to, and we have products in our collection, like we have naughty note cards. Like those have curse words and they're definitely for a very certain audience. They're my favorite product. But, we wanted to make sure that we balance that out with things, for the girls who are a bit more conservative or traditional and wouldn't, feel comfortable signing their name to a card that said holy shit. And there's plenty of women
But
out
even
there who would.
your holy shit cards, they're not crass.
Well, so we try to keep it very elevated. Like all of our products were engraved and they're engraved in gold. So it's sort of like
Exactly.
something kind of crass, really fancy, but
They're
not,
like
not
elegantly
really.
crass. Yeah, that's how
Right.
I
Like
would
it
put
kind of
them.
balances itself because
Yeah.
it's beautiful and engraved and gold edged. The
And on like a
words
really beautiful card stock. Like it's
yeah.
done very elegantly.
So
Yes.
that balance, I think, allows us to be a little bit further along,
Mhm.
on the our cheeky
Mhm.
side. And then, but because it's so like it's such good quality and it's so fat, it kind of is a little bit forgiving, let's say,
Yeah.
because your godmother or whatever, is probably like, oh, this is still a beautiful piece of stationery. Haha, that's like whatever. But in terms of like coming up with the designs, I'm always thinking of cards I would want to use.
Mhm.
Like something will come up in my life and I need to write a card. Like I had a friend who was just turning 40 and I was like, I used the what the F card
Mhm.
because like, how is she just turning 40? That's so unfair. I was
Yeah.
like, how are you only 40? Right? Like
Yeah.
that's that's lucky.
Yeah.
Um, I'm always thinking like, what kind of card would I want to use? And then lately, like there's just been things that are sort of out there, like in the universe that I think are funny for note cards. Like we just made caviar note cards. They're so fun. Like to send that to someone for their birthday, it's like festive and fun, and no one's going to expect to get that on a note card. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like I think it's when you open an envelope and it's not anything you expected. That's so fun. It's like a little surprise moment, and I
Yeah.
think that's really fabulous.
Yeah. Have you always been like an entertainer? Have you always loved to set the table? Were you like a tea party girl as a young girl? Like, did you dress your Barbies? Were you always that person?
Well, I don't think it goes quite back that far, but I do remember really thinking about my birthday parties a lot. Like they were really important to me and I would plan them out. And yeah. So I think I've always been a planner like that. I actually wanted to be like an events planner. And my husband's like, no, you can't work on the weekends. So
Yeah.
that got vetoed very quickly. But I love throwing parties. I actually love throwing them more than actually being at my own. But I love entertaining. I love bringing people together. It's so fabulous. Back to connection. I just think it's great to bring all different people together in a room. I always find a dinner at someone's home is just so many more memories than going to a restaurant, like any day of the week. I just remember good times at people's houses. For me, that's just so much more meaningful. I didn't get to entertain really in college, but right when I graduated college, like I would organize like a girls' Hanukkah dinner or this, that, and the other, just because I just think it's fun. I love to think about the invitations, the party favors, all the fun stuff. So yeah, I really do love entertaining. And I've tried to, Dear Annabelle started as a stationery business, but a lot of women who enjoy stationery also enjoy entertaining. So I
Mhm.
think that the two categories are a nice mix.
Do you have any like thoughts of where you would want Dear Annabelle to go or lead down the future?
I'm always thinking about how Dear Annabelle should grow and pivot and what makes financial sense for us. We started with note cards and notepads. And then quickly I was like, I love place cards. There's no good ones on the market. I have to make place cards. Right. And actually, I was going to delay the launch to make them. I was like, you know what, though? Let's just start. Again, you have to sort of just start. He's like, just throw up what you have on the website and let's go. He's like, we're not going to wait around now to make another whole product category. So place cards were next. And then all these women kept asking me for like place card holders. I don't even really use them. I would just like throw the place card right on the napkin or like prop it up on the, because like I think place cards are a bit formal. So just setting them on the napkin kind of brings down the formality of it.
Mhm.
But everybody wanted like a holder. So then we created these holders and people love them. And then, we created cocktail napkins and some of them are kind of funny and fun. And, like where to go next? I don't see like Dear Annabelle as like a tabletop business. There's lots of great ones. I love collecting plates and china and services and that kind of thing. But I don't know that that's really right for us. So I'm not totally sure. I think that we could do more home things, but really at Dear Annabelle, we do really well with things that you can gift, like things that are giftable. That's sort of our business. Like, would you actually give your friend a thing of plates? No. Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? I want to give things that are easy. I want to make things that are easy to give. Like, it's someone's anniversary. It's that they need a hostess gift. It's a graduation. Can we be there for all your gifting? But so like making actual napkins, probably not. Like, you're not going to give those to people. Making a cup, like a pencil cup, I don't think so. I'm not sure that anyone would gift a pencil cup, so Maybe. I don't know.
But your playing cards are gorgeous. I love them.
Yeah, and I think those are like an awesome gift,
Yeah.
like if your grandma plays
Easy.
bridge, that's a great gift.
Yeah.
So that is something that's,
I
a
think
bit
you
more
can go
common.
into like mahjong. I think you could go more down the play that whole like
Yeah, well, we launched our new
game.
mahjong set actually this week, and we've like nearly sold out.
Wait,
So
what? I didn't know. How did I
yeah,
miss
we launched
this?
mahjong cards. They're called Pray for Jokers. They actually launched this Tuesday.
I love
They're
this.
yeah, they're amazing. So mahjong sets, like maybe there's a lot of great ones. Like I don't know if if we need to make one or we could find the best one and sell it. I'm always
Yeah.
looking for ways to collaborate with other brands. I actually reached out to a mahjong company to see if they would do a collab for my note cards, and they said no.
Oh,
So I mean,
maybe we could do a collab. We could do
yeah,
like one for breast cancer and like women's cancer awareness. We could do like a mahjong
yeah.
collab.
See, that's so
That could be
great.
fun.
Yeah. It's like there's endless things and directions that businesses can go. And, sometimes you have to pivot, right? Like, things have to be lucrative and make sense. Otherwise, it's not worth it. But,
As long
the
as you stay
landscape,
true to your core and you stay true to
yeah.
like why you're doing it, I think it works.
I want everything to be perfect. So, like, it has taken me like 3.5 years to try to make a candle because I want it to be perfect, right? I could have just taken a glass jar, thrown a sticker on it, and called it a day. And I could have candles probably like 8 weeks after deciding to make them. But like, that's not what I want to do. And that's not what I like. I'm just extremely particular. And so, yeah, I want to make sure that everything we do is that intentional, right? I don't want to make junky stuff, just to make better margins. I want to make sure everything I sell is beautiful and perfect. And we do so much quality control because our cards are made by hand, right? So there's ones that are damaged, but I can't sell my friends or, even strangers. I would never want to sell someone something that's not perfect because I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of buying that and spending my hard, earned money on that.
Yeah.
So
And it
it is
shows. I mean, it shows. That's your brand. That's
yeah.
your brand, and it's your name on it. It's your daughter's name on it for sure.
Yeah, I know, totally. Back to the name. Your
How does
Annabelle.
she feel about that? How does she ever
What?
talked about it with you?
Yeah, I don't, it's funny. My son Chase was like, "Why didn't you call it Dear Chase, Mommy?"
Oh,
And I was
that's so
like, "I'm really
cute.
sorry. You have a whole bank named after you." I mean, it's not like it's our families, but there is a bank called Chase. I was like, "Dear Chase doesn't sound that good." He was sort of like, not like, a little jealous, but he was much younger then. We're talking like 8 years ago. I think Annabelle likes it. It was really funny. Like a year and a half ago, some random boy at Riverdale came up to her. He's like, "Are you Annabelle? Like, Dear Annabelle?" And she was like, "I am." He's like, "I have a pad on my desk. That's that company. I didn't
That's so
realize it was
funny.
you."
That's
And my
amazing.
mom
What a
told me.
compliment. Oh
I
my
know, he
God.
was like, "Isn't that funny?" That it was like on his desk. His mom had thrown it on there probably.
That's amazing.
We realized that she was the Annabelle.
Wait, Marcie, that's like the biggest compliment ever that like a teenage boy had your notepad on his desk.
Yeah.
That's
I looked at the
crazy.
logo on the back. Yeah,
And
so
he put
funny.
it
Yes, a
together.
lot of people call me Annabelle. Like they think I'm Annabelle, but I'm not Annabelle. It's sort of supposed to be like a nod to letter writing. Like I'm writing you a letter, dear
Yeah,
Amy.
of course.
And also, dear is such an endearing word. Like
Mhm.
it's a loving word.
Mhm. Definitely. Oh my God, I love that story. That's the cutest thing ever. And it's probably was like his way of getting to talk to your cute daughter.
Maybe I don't know. I'm not sure.
That's
Sure.
so cute. I love that. I love that. That's literally like the cutest story ever. I love that. Like you made it. If you have a
I
teenage
know. I
boy
was like,
who's your
that's so
pad on
nice.
his
Like a
desk.
little boy. Yeah, totally.
I mean, whether he used it or not doesn't matter. It's sitting there as decor.
It is really fun though, like, as I travel and meet people, like when random strangers know the brand. I mean, that's the best moment, right? Because like a lot, I have a lot of friends in New York and all around the country from Duke, from high school, wherever. So of course those people know, but when complete strangers know it, that's like, oh my gosh, yay, something's working.
That's
Something's great.
huge. I mean, I think we have this big 5K walk, 10K walk run in LA every year. That's been going on since 2001. And the first handful of years, it was like, I mean, I walked around, I knew every single person there. And now I don't know barely anyone there. And
And
that's
that's
the
when
best
the sun
feeling ever.
grows.
Yeah.
That's
That's
what
when
you
you
want.
know people are there because, of the reasons, the right reasons. They're there for the cause and because their friends of friends are there and they want to be there for the right reasons. Having nothing to do with me, having nothing to do with my siblings, having nothing to do with any sort of obligatory reason to be there. And
It
that's
kind of
when you know you've
legitimizes
done
what
something.
you're doing, I think, in a way, when
It's great. And it's when like, oh my God, this is like stands on its own 2 feet. And I do believe when you build something that can grow. And as you said, you can pivot and you can change and you can sort of grow with the times and make sure that you're constantly reevaluating which direction you're going in. But if you always stay true to why you do this in the first place, and for you, it's about connection, like you said, which is why I think it's so important and so interesting and important for women, then you'll have that. You'll have that brand that can stand on its own 2 feet, which is amazing. You should
And
feel
I think
really excited.
Thank you. I feel like another, really important part of the brand is like giving back.
Yeah.
I mean, you know so much about this, but we love to support different charities with our note cards, and that's really important to me. Like I really into my charities that I'm involved with here in New York. And it's been really nice to like know that we're making a small difference in that way too. Like we have a set of dog note cards that supports the ASPCA, and we have some booby cards that support the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. And it's like so nice to make sure that your company has that kind of moral compass too, like that comes through. I think it's super important. There's so many great brands out there that are doing so much. I think of like a Veronica Beard, like they are constantly supporting all different women in charities and all different, female founders. And I just think that giving back is so important.
Especially when it's organic and it's meaningful. I totally agree. Yeah. This was so fun because I got to learn kind of about the whole line and about the story and about really how your career, how led up to this wonderful building of this brand in this moment. So it's really cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcie.
Fast.
To be continued.